The screech of tires and the blaring of car horns shattered the quiet of our suburban street. I bolted to my front window, heart pounding, to see a sleek black SUV parked diagonally across my driveway, blocking my car completely. A woman in a glittering designer dress, her hair perfectly styled, stood beside it, barking orders at a group of partygoers piling out of other cars. Karen, the neighborhood's self-proclaimed queen, known for her sharp tongue and unapologetic entitlement. She was directing her guests to park wherever they pleased, including my property, without a hint of permission. My blood boiled as I realized she'd orchestrated this chaos for her lavish backyard gala, and my driveway was her collateral damage. I'd dealt with Karen's antics before her loud parties, her snide comments about my modest house, her habit of treating our cul-de-sac like her personal kingdom. But this was a new low. I stepped outside, forcing a calm tone. Karen, your guests are blocking my driveway. I need to get out later. She barely glanced at me, waving a manicured hand dismissively. Oh, relax, it's just for a few hours. My party's more important than your little errands. Her guests snickered, emboldened by her arrogance. I clenched my fists, swallowing the urge to snap back. Instead, I noticed the no parking signs I'd put up last week torn down, lying crumpled in the grass. Karen's doing, no doubt. Fuming, I retreated to my house, but my mind was racing. Karen thought she could steamroll me, but I wasn't about to let her win. I remembered a conversation with my friend Tom, a contractor who'd worked on local zoning laws. He mentioned a quirky loophole. Temporary fencing could be erected on private property without a permit for security purposes, as long as it didn't block public roads. An idea sparked. If Karen wanted to play dirty, I'd play smart. I called Tom, who was already fed up with Karen's antics from her last party, where she'd borrowed his parking spot without asking. I'm in, he said, his voice gleeful. Let's teach her a lesson. By dusk, Tom and I were hauling wooden fence panel from his truck. Karen's party was in full swing, music blaring, champagne flowing. Her guest cars, including her shiny SUV, remained smugly parked in my driveway. We worked quickly, erecting a sturdy, temporary wooden fence around the perimeter of my property, encircling her car and the others. It was perfectly legal me land my rules. The fence was tall enough to make moving the cars impossible without dismantling it, but we left a narrow gap for pedestrians. As we hammered the final post, a neighbor, Mrs. Chun, poked her head out. She was a quiet widow who'd lived here for decades, and Karen had once berated her for her unkempt garden. Good for you, she whispered, her eyes twinkling. Karen's had this coming. The twist came when Mrs. Chun revealed something unexpected. She'd overheard Karen bragging to her guests about how she deliberately targeted my driveway to put me in my place after I'd refused to trim my oak tree, which she claimed blocked her view. Mrs. Chun had recorded the conversation on her phone, capturing Karen's venomous rant. That nobody thinks he can ignore me? I'll show him who runs this street. The recording was gold, clear admission of her malicious intent. Mrs. Chun, usually timid, was livid. I've had enough of her bullying, she said, handing me the file. Use this. Armed with the recording, I felt a surge of confidence. The stage was set for a showdown. As the party wound down, Karen strutted out, her heels clicking, ready to leave. She froze when she saw the fence trapping her SUV. What the hell is this? She shrieked, her face twisting in fury. Her guests gathered, murmuring in confusion. I stepped forward, keeping my voice steady. You parked on my property without permission, Karen. I've secured my land, as is my right. If you want your car, you'll need to wait until I dismantle the fence tomorrow morning. Karen's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. You can't do this. I'll call the police. I smiled, holding up my phone with Mrs. Chen's recording cued. Go ahead. But first, let's hear what you said about deliberately targeting me. I played the clip, and her guest gasped as her own words echoed. I'll show him who runs this street. Karen's face drained of color. Her friends shifted uncomfortably, some whispering to each other, their admiration for her crumbling. One guest, a man in a suit, muttered, "That's low, Karen." She spun on him, snapping, "Stay out of this." But the tide was turning. The police arrived within the hour, summoned by Karen's frantic call. She ranted about vandalism and false imprisonment of her car, but the officers weren't swayed. I showed them my property deed, explained the zoning loophole, and played Mrs. Chen's recording. The lead officer, a no-nonsense woman, raised an eyebrow at Karen. "Ma'am, you parked on private property without consent and admitted to malicious intent. He's within his rights to secure his land. You're lucky he's not pressing charges for trespassing." Karen's jaw dropped, her usual composure shattered. Her guests, now embarrassed, began slinking away, leaving her alone in the spotlight of her own making. By midnight, Karen's SUV was still trapped, a gleaming symbol of her hubris. She tried to negotiate, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Look, let's be reasonable. I'll move the car, and we'll forget this." But I wasn't budging. "You'll get your car tomorrow, Karen. Maybe next time you'll ask first." She stormed off, her designer dress catching on the fence as she went. Mrs. Chun, watching from her porch, gave me a thumbs up. Tom, grinning, slapped my shoulder. Karma's a hell of a contractor. The next morning, I dismantled the fence at a leisurely pace, making sure Karen saw me savoring every moment. Her SUV was freed by noon, but the damage to her reputation was permanent. Word of her stunts spread through the neighborhood, fueled by Mrs. Chen's recording, which she'd shared with the community group chat. Karen's parties became less frequent, her influence waning as neighbors stopped inviting her to gatherings. She'd always thrived on being the center of attention, but now she was a cautionary tale. Looking back, I realized this wasn't just about a driveway. It was about standing up to someone who thought they could bully their way through life. Karen's downfall wasn't the fancy, it was her own arrogance, exposed for all to see. I learned that sometimes the best revenge is letting someone's true colors paint their punishment. Mrs. Chun, Tom, and I shared a quiet victory, a reminder that community matters more than one person's ego. What do you think? Did I go too far, or was this a fair lesson for Karen? Share your thoughts on where the line between justice and revenge lies.